Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and the FPL eye test for Game Week 28, where I take a look at this past game week's matches from an FPL perspective. And we had a couple different interesting matches this weekend, some not so interesting, some very interesting, with the main match being Man City against Liverpool, but we'll get to that at the end of the video because we're going to do this in chronological order, starting with the first game this weekend, which was Man United against Everton. And in this game, I think the most notable thing was Man United's sort of, FPL relevant players, I guess. Rashford did score a goal from a penalty, but the main two men from this game in general, was Man United's Bruno Fernandes and Alejandro Garnacho, who got the most points as well in this game. 11 points from Fernandes, 9 points from Garnacho in total, which was really, really good for anyone that has them and started them. More importantly, because I benched Garnacho and his 9 points, sadly for me. But Bruno actually did something, finally. He got 11 points, got a penalty goal, he almost scored a free kick as well, and almost had an assist for Garnacho on top of that. So he ended up getting 3 bonus points, along with the goal and the clean sheet. So 11 nice points for anyone that took a punt on Bruno Fernandes. I know especially 2 pretty prominent FPL content creators who are doing really well this season both have Fernandes for some reason. I still can't really work it out, apart from just the fact that you picked him at the start of the season and you want him to be really good, because so far this season, he's just been a really underwhelming asset. But in this game, he was really, really good. And to be fair, Everton is one of his favorite opponents. I remember that from the last few seasons. He's actually been pretty good against Everton. So I guess it makes sense that he did well in this game in particular. But this was actually a pretty even game, which is kind of usual for Everton. They usually have pretty even games, or even games where they do dominate and they still end up losing. I think that's been the case for most of the season with Everton. They had a really nice spell. Not at the start of the season, they had a really bad spell where they really started really poorly, but then they had a really good spell of good fixtures where they played really well and got a lot of points as well. But since that point, they've sort of reverted back to the old team that they had at the start of the season, where they create a lot of chances and don't really concede too many chances of their own, but they just make it difficult for themselves with stupid, silly mistakes and missing their big chances. So Everton had a huge chance after only 2 minutes. The ball was passed through to Doku, I think, and then some other guy finished the attack. Could have easily been 1-0 from the get-go for Everton, but instead it was Man United who scored the first goal. And that was from a Bruno Fernandes penalty, which Alejandro Garnacho won. And again, really clumsy from Everton and clumsy from Tarkowski. Garnacho basically goes past him right on the side of the box, and Tarkowski basically hits his leg, and it's a clear penalty for Man United. So Bruno Fernandes steps up, takes the penalty. Really close to being saved from Pickford. He went the right way, but he just went a little too slow to save the ball, because it could have been easily saved. But Fernandes went the opposite corner, or where he usually goes to when it comes to penalties, and he got a really elusive goal for him. So really nice for him. Later on in the game, Garnacho got another penalty, again from a counter-attack, where he got the ball passed to him from McTominay, I think. And he went through the box basically and got tackled. And again, it was a pretty silly mistake from Everton. And again, it was a pretty clear penalty. This time though, Rashford stepped up and took it and scored the goal as well. So 1 goal from Rashford, 1 goal from Fernandes. A dream state for anyone from Game Week 1 onwards that had double up with Rashford and Fernandes in their team. But most people are so far removed from that team that they didn't really get any enjoyment from this game at all from an FPL perspective. And the same can be said for me with Garnacho on the bench, because I benched him for Foden, which ended up being a bad decision on my part. But Man United, I think Fernandes in general looked really good. He had that free kick that I talked about as well. Really nice free kick. Just a really nice save from Pickford as well, getting his hand up and saving it. It could have been even more towards the corner, and that would have been a surefire goal. But he got it over the wall. Pretty hard shot towards the corner as well, but just not enough towards the corner to be a goal for Man United there. But in the end, 2-0 win for Man United. The XG, as you can see, 2.72 compared to 1.61. Heavily influenced by the 2 penalties. Basically, the 2 situations where Man United got a penalty were not really super attacking positions, or really dangerous positions to score from. So yeah, basically a penalty is 0.70 or 0.75 or something expected goal. So you can basically take away 1.5 out of the, or 1.4 or 1.5 out of the expected goal for Man United there. And Everton would actually win the expected goal battle if you take away the penalties. So pretty even game, could have gone either way to be honest, but Man United just, had less mistakes and were more clinical with the penalties that they got compared to Everton and their big chances that they missed. Everton in general, not really too much to talk about there. Not that many FPL relevant players, especially now that they don't play in Game Week 29 either. So yeah, we could just move on to the next game between Wolverhampton and Fulham. So between Wolves and Fulham, this was another pretty interesting game when it comes to like who won out of the teams and who had the most chances out of the teams. Because as someone that didn't watch the game and had Aït-Nouri, who I'm really happy with having in my team, he scored the opening goal for Wolves, and he also was really close to getting an assist as well that I saw in the highlights after, when I caught up with the game and watched the big moments of the game. But Fulham really should have scored before that final goal right at the end of the game, because basically they had several mega chances, Fulham, that they should have scored from, but they kept missing. Rodrigo Muniz was sort of invisible in this game, which was interesting because he's been like the most prominent Fulham player lately, but Harry Wilson had a mega chance at the start of the game. Palhinha had a pretty good chance as well in the middle part of the game as well. Fulham had several good chances to score. Adama Traore had a really nice shot. That was really nice saved from Jose Sa. Some really huge chances from Fulham, but they just didn't manage to score. And Wolves were way more clinical with their finishes. Aït-Nouri, who was always involved in pretty much everything Wolverhampton did offensively, super involved, high up the pitch, in the box in really good positions several times as well. Could have easily had more than just the goal that he had, but the goal was really well taken. The ball fell down to Lemina, who took it past, or not even Lemina, Totti, who's a blonde guy as well. Sorry, I keep mixing up my blonde guys, I guess. But Totti got the ball on the side, passed it into Aït-Nouri. Brilliant finish from Aït-Nouri, 1-0 for Wolves. Then the second goal was a pass to Semedo, who shot it, and the ball deflected off a defender. The ball was going wide, so it ended up being an own goal rather than a goal from Semedo. But again, Aït-Nouri in this chance as well, he was in the middle of the box. So if the goalkeeper had saved the ball rather than the ball going into the net, that would have been an easy tap-in for Aït-Nouri as well. So he just keeps popping up into the box, even though he's a defender. So he's a really good asset to have going forward. Really happy with him myself as someone that brought him in last week when he got 12 points. Now he got 10 points. It was this close to getting 15 points as well if they had just kept that clean sheet. But at the very end of the game, Fulham scored their final goal, or finally they scored their goal that they really deserved throughout the game. But the goal in itself was not really the biggest chance. It was just like a cross into the box, and then like a touch from Broja, which ended up being like a heavy touch, and the ball ended up into the path of Iwobi, who just stuck a leg out, and the ball went into the back of the net as well. So yeah, kind of a haphazard chance at like 97 plus minutes with 8 minutes at a time. So really close to a clean sheet there for Wolverhampton, but they didn't manage to get it in the end. But all in all, as an Aït-Nouri owner especially, I can't really be too unhappy about that game, with him getting 10 points in total, got 2 bonus points, and the points from scoring the goal as well. So really nice from Aït-Nouri, who looks like a really good player to have going forward in general, except for, of course, Game Week 29, where they don't have a match. But Fulham do have a match in Game Week 29, and it's kind of interesting to see what you can do with Fulham, because obviously they play against Spurs. They do play at home against Spurs, so it is not the worst match, because Spurs do concede quite a lot of goals, but at the same time, you do want to have triple Spurs players in this game. Maybe you want to have triple Spurs midfielders, if that's the case. So maybe you want to just go for an all-out attack game here, where you might have someone like Muniz, for example, or Iwobi for that matter, who's a decent shout as well, or Willian if you're not really. Willian is not really the best option. Only a few managers who are not that good this season have Willian, I guess. But either way, Fulham look pretty dangerous when it comes to creating chances, at least. So maybe you want to look at their players for the next game week. But I think Broja now with the assist as well came on and did some things for Fulham. Maybe Muniz is not going to be the secure starter as well. So I'm not sure if I want to go there with a Fulham player, especially seeing as they play against Spurs in this free hits game week. But yeah, let's see what they can do in that game in general. But for this game, 2-1 in for Wolves. They took their chances and they managed to not concede too many goals either. A pretty good game from Jose Sa and the goal for Wolves as well. So 2-1 win for Wolves. Easily could have gone the other way though. Final game on this page is going to be between Bournemouth and Sheff Utd, and this was obviously a huge game for anyone with FPL players, basically, because Bournemouth have some of the most highly bought in players this week, especially with Solanke being the main guy as the captain for pretty much like 95% of teams, it seems like, from my end at least. And speaking of Solanke, he was really, really unlucky. First of all, Bournemouth got a really rare penalty at the start of the game. Solanke steps up to take it. He scored a penalty he got earlier in the season. We expect him to score in this game as well. But then he slips because for some reason it was really slippery, and that's just unlucky. Who knows what would have happened with the penalty? Maybe he would have missed it anyway, but when he slips and basically loses his footing and shoots it onto his own leg and it goes super high and wide, it's pretty much just being unlucky, I guess, because, yeah, obviously slipping is not something that usually happens when people shoot in football, but it happened on this occasion, and it happened on the worst occasion for those of us with him as captain, and especially those of you guys who triple captain him as well. Really unlucky. He also scored a goal that was disallowed later on in the game, disallowed by VAR. Again, I've seen this on replay, and it barely hits his arm right next to his body, but that's the rules that they have now. Offensive handballs are different from defensive handballs for some reason, and what should have probably been a really nice or perfectly good goal ended up being disallowed as well. So easily could have had 2 goals in this game, Solanke, but at the same time doesn't get anything registered when it comes to expected goals because, yeah, the penalty, I guess, is a huge chance, but non-penalty expected goals especially, he's not going to get points from that. And then the goal that was deemed to be handball obviously doesn't count at XG either because the shot never happened because it was a free kick rather than a goal. So yeah, doesn't really register on the non-penalty expected goal moment stat, Solanke, but he had a pretty huge game and could have had 2 goals easily in this game. So in general, he was in pretty good positions. So Bournemouth scored from 2 set pieces where both him and the likes of Sabarni, for example, were in really good positions, but it was Danga Ouattara who was actually the standout for Bournemouth. And he came on at halftime for Kirkus, who was another pretty hugely transferred in player for Bournemouth. So Dango came on as the left back replacement for Kirkus and did amazingly. Scored the first goal that Bournemouth had in this game. Sheffield United took the lead 2-0 in the first half. Gustavo Hammer, who's the best player, I think, from Sheffield United. I think both him and Archer have a future in the Premier League, but apart from that, there's not that much quality or Premier League quality in the squad, I think. But either way, they took the lead 2-0. And then the first goal for Bournemouth in the second half was from Dango Ouattara. Perfectly good corner cross from Ryan Christie, who's another underrated, not talked about enough player from Bournemouth. Really nice cross from him, and a really nice leap and header from Dango Ouattara, giving Bournemouth the first out of 2 goals in this game. And then they just stuck at it, had another set piece where the ball was cleared out, and then they got it into the box again, and the ball is headed by Dango to the back post where Enes Unal scores his first league goal for Bournemouth and equalizes for Bournemouth. And again, Solanke was in a good position, Sabarni was in a good position, so at least that's a little bit encouraging for before the final game in this game week for Bournemouth, which is against Luton, which is the team that we're going to talk about pretty soon. But just want to touch on Sheffield United just quickly. Yes, they scored 2 goals. There was also, the first goal was from Hammer. It was basically pass out to Jayden Bogle, who shot, and then Neto had a save. Wasn't the best save because the rebound went straight into Hammer's legs and he had a pretty easy chance to score and gave Sheffield United the lead with that shot as well. So pretty poor save from Neto, all things considered. He really should have knocked it anywhere else than right where he hit it because the ball went straight to Hammer and he scored easily. I think the second goal as well, he was pretty weak, Neto. It was from a set piece where he basically struggled to clear the ball. The ball went back into the back of the box, and then Jack Robinson got a shot off and he scored from that chance as well. So Neto, not the best game from him. A lot of people brought in him, I should say. Neto, Kirkus, Sabarni, and Solanke were the main 4 guys that were brought in, but in the end, it was the likes of Dango Ouattara and Christie and stuff that got points, and Enes Unal who scored the points for Bournemouth, so not that many points when it comes to FPL in general. Neto did actually have 6 saves, so Sheffield United had more than enough chances in this game. This was one of the better games that Sheffield United have had this season, and it says something about Bournemouth and their form lately as well. They're not looking at their best currently, which could go both ways for the Luton game because Luton are not looking too good either. But Sheffield United had a decent game, managed to get 1 point, but probably should have had 3. But still, Bournemouth had a lot of chances, as you can see, 3.35 expected goals, which is quite a lot. They really should have scored more as well. But that's also down to the fact that Sheffield United took the early lead and were sort of just trying to defend their lead. And that's what happens in that case. The team hunting for goals is the team that's going to get the goal chances as well. And that's what happened with Bournemouth in this case as well. Moving on to the next few games, and we have Crystal Palace against Luton. I did mention Luton, and they had a pretty poor game of their own against Crystal Palace. They created way less chances than Bournemouth did, 0.84 XG. But I should say the two most prominent FPL picks from Luton, Alfie Doughty and Carlton Morris, were really close to combining for a goal. It happened pretty late in the game. I think it was in the second half. And a cross from Doughty, one of many crosses from Doughty, because that's what he does basically for Luton, into the box for Carlton Morris, who hit it first time on the volley. But the ball was really nicely struck. Like, it was really a hard shot and stuff, but it just went straight at the goalkeeper. So sadly for anyone with both Doughty and Morris especially, ended up being just straight at the goalkeeper and no goal. But that easily could have been a goal for Morris and an assist for Doughty. So that was the big chance for Luton and their main players in this game. But Palace took the lead, and again, I've written good and bad Doughty in this game because the goal was clearly his fault, as much as it was Neto's fault for at least one of the goals, maybe two of the goals for Bournemouth. The first goal, or the one goal that Palace got in this game from Mateta, was a huge mistake from Doughty. So he basically passes the ball back towards the goalkeeper, but Daniel Munoz, who's a really nice FPL player, was in full speed and managed to get the ball before the goalkeeper went out to the side, crossed the ball into the box, and a really nice backheel finish from Mateta made sure that it was 1-0 for Crystal Palace. And Palace should have had so many more goals. You can see from the expected goals, 2.73. They should have had easily way more goals. Looking at the Luton highlights, you can't really get that picture because they didn't really show that many Palace chances, but SA had several chances. Mateta had several mega chances as well. Really should have scored. SA almost scored from just inside Luton's half as well. Shot it from 50 yards out, and it just barely clipped the bar basically and went over. It would have been going into the open net behind Kaminski if that was the case. But Palace had several chances, just couldn't manage to bury the game and score that second goal. And then at the end, that ended up being what did them in, basically, because Luton scored an equalizer right at the death in 6 minutes into injury time. A cross from Townsend was headed by Collie Woodrow, and the ball went into the back post and in. And that ended up being 1-1, and a really lucky point for Luton away from home. In terms of FPL, again, not many points. Not that many people had Townsend or Woodrow, so not much to gain from this in FPL. In general, when it comes to Luton and their next few games, both the double game week game against Bournemouth and then their game in Game Week 29, looking at their players, again, you have to mention Doughty and Morris. They are the two standout picks for a reason, and they were sort of the two players that were the closest to getting points as well. Ogbena had a pretty good chance on a header as well, which could have been a goal, but apart from that, it was basically Morris and Doughty, and then nothing much else from Luton in this game. So Luton not looking too good, but Bournemouth also not looking too good. So I'm going to be really interested to see what happens in this game on Wednesday between two teams that are struggling at the moment. But Bournemouth are playing at home at least, so maybe that will give them a little bit of an advantage. But it will probably be without Kirkus, who was subbed off at the half. He might even be injured. I'm not sure. There are some rumors that he might be out as well. But Dango Atara played so well in his place, and he probably keeps his place for this second game as well. So really bad luck for anyone that brought in Kirkus. When it comes to Luton, it's Morris and Doughty, and then not much else. Maybe Ogbena, maybe Adebayo is back potentially for Game Week 29, maybe. But we'll see. He would be a huge boost for Luton because they're clearly missing in at least. But 1-1 for them. Pretty lucky point, all things considered, but not many lucky points for any FPL managers that have doubled up or tripled up on Luton this game week. But we'll see what happens with the double game week fixture and then the Game Week 29 fixture as well, which people have targeted Luton players for, basically. Arsenal against Brentford, and I'm kind of surprised the XG for Arsenal is only 1.28. I have to double check that after making the video. Maybe I'll change the graphic if it's wrong, but it seems really low because Arsenal had several pretty good chances in this game, but at the same time, the opening goal from Declan Rice was not that big of a chance. Cross from Ben White, and Declan Rice headed it in. And that's why I have the notes, not even egg fried. It was white rice. That was the combination for the goal, basically. And again, like the main Arsenal assets in Saka, Gabriel, Saliba, Raya especially, who didn't play this game because he played against his own team that is on loan from Brentford. All those guys basically got nothing. Gabriel got 2 points, Saka got 2 points, Saliba got 2 points. They got nothing, but the other Arsenal players that have sort of stepped up lately, Havertz got the winning goal, obviously, scored in this game. He should have been sent off for a dive, by the way, which we'll get to pretty soon. He got points. Ben White is now the highest scoring defender in the whole game. I've seen a lot of people mention getting Saliba in and stuff, potentially bringing in Saliba if they already have Gabriel. But Ben White is actually the better pick currently because he's playing really offensively and has been fantastic the last few weeks. So I think he's the one to double up on in Arsenal defense if you're still singled up with only Gabriel. Obviously, they have a blank game week in 29 and then they play City in game week 30. But from game week 31 onwards, I think they have really good fixtures. And that's potentially the point where you bring in someone like Ben White, who is really attacking lately and also getting those clean sheet points for Arsenal when they do manage to keep a clean sheet, because that didn't happen in this game. And that's partly or mainly due to Aaron Ramsdale just not being the best goalkeeper. I'm one of those guys who thinks David Raya is a clear upgrade over Ramsdale, and I think this game showed why, because a really massive mistake from Ramsdale to give Brentford a chance to equalize after Rice had that opening goal for Arsenal. Jan Vissa, credit to him, he went for the ball and basically got it after Ramsdale took a hell of a long time to clear the ball, cleared it straight into Vissa and into the goal. So 1-1 for Brentford there. And Arsenal had several decent chances in the second half. Saka was quite involved, but wasn't really as involved as we've seen him lately. But in the end, it was Kai Havertz scoring from another corner or cross from Ben White, who again looks really fantastic. And Havertz scores again, like they say in the song, and managed to secure the win for Arsenal. But he should have been sent off because he already had a yellow card, and then he clearly dived for a penalty in the second half. They didn't get a penalty, but as usually happens now with VAR and the referee lets the decision go to VAR, and they can check if it's a penalty or not, but they can't check if it was a yellow card or not for diving, even if it is a second yellow, which would have resulted in a red. So I think this is the type of situation where the referee would have either had to blow the whistle for a penalty, or he would have blown a whistle for a yellow card for diving, because it's clearly one or the other in this situation. And then Havertz clearly was not touched at all, or barely, if anything, and he goes to ground trying to get a penalty. So really should have been sent off, and I've seen a lot of people be annoyed about that, and rightly so. But in the end, Arsenal, regardless of that fact, were deserved winners. But Brentford did have that one massive chance at 1-1 from, well, not massive chance, but like almost scored at 1-1 from a really like major moment of magic from Ivan Toney, who basically got the ball. It's kind of similar to Esse's strike from just inside the box. He was quite wide, and it was a bit further into Arsenal's half. It was a really nicely struck outside of the boot shot from Toney, and the ball went almost into the top corner, but Ramsdale, for what it's worth, did a really nice save to clear it at that situation, even though it was pretty far off its line at first. He also had a pretty decent save from a header as well. I think it was maybe Collins or Ayer, can't remember exactly who, as well, Ramsdale. So he did make a couple saves and sort of made up for his mistake, but at the same time, never should have given Brentford that goal in the first place. Brentford never should have been in this game in the first place as well. It should have probably been another trashing from Arsenal. But once Brentford got that goal, they were able to defend and try to defend their 1 point in this game, but they didn't manage to do that because of Havertz. So when it comes to Arsenal, obviously Gabriel and Saka, I think they are just template picks for a reason. They are really good still, even though they didn't do much in this game. Gabriel had a couple really nice chances. He really could have scored as well from the set pieces from Arsenal, which are always really dangerous. Could have scored from a Saka set piece for what it's worth. I think those two guys are really nice picks from Arsenal. But apart from that, there's a lot of ways you can go. You could go with Saliba, who's the more template pick, more secure pick. But at the same time, Ben White is about as nailed as Saliba is currently. And he has more attacking threat, it seems like, currently. So yeah, I would go with Ben White over Saliba. And then you also have Havertz and potentially Rice as well as potential midfield picks. On top of that, maybe Jesus as a striker, if he keeps playing now. He came on and made a difference for Arsenal, played pretty well for Arsenal at least, offensively. So maybe he becomes an option. But Havertz lately, absolutely on fire. I think he has like 47 points in the last 4 game weeks or something. So he's absolutely amazing currently in FPL. So maybe he's someone you could go with as well from game week 31 onwards, when Arsenal have pretty decent matches to end the season. So yeah, something to consider. When it comes to Brentford and their game week 29 potential, because they do play in game week 29, one of 8 teams that play in game week 29, and they have a really nice fixture against Burnley. They have some options. Flecking in goal obviously has the easiest fixture against Burnley, on paper at least. He could be a good option. Reguilon was seen as one of the best options in defense in this in game week 29. But he was not ready to play in this game. So who knows if he's going to be fit for game 39, but if he is, obviously he's a really attacking fullback who could get attacking returns and also could get clean sheets for Brentford, so he's also a really nice pick. And then obviously you have Tony and potentially Wissa. I don't think Mbeumo is going to be back for game 29, sadly, but he would have been another really nice pick in this game. Let's move on to the Sunday games and the match between Aston Villa and Spurs. First half in this game was pretty lackluster, not much happened. It seemed like it was going to be a pretty not interesting game after many had high hopes for a lot of goals in both ways for this match, because a lot of people have players from both teams, especially those who are not free hitting in game 29. You should be at least double up or triple up on Spurs, and probably double up on Aston Villa as well, because both of these teams play in game 29. So this was a pretty interesting game from an FPL perspective. But first half, not that interesting at all. Not that many things happened in general. Looked like a pretty boring game. But then second half, Spurs just completely took over, and partly that was down to them getting some really nice goals at the start of the half. Maddison opened the scoring after a really nice cross from Pape Sarr. Nice finish from Maddison as well in the box. But what really changed the game, especially for Aston Villa, I think this was after Spurs had gone up 2-0. Maybe even 3-0, but at least, yeah. Either way, what really changed the game for Aston Villa was the fact that John McGinn just lost his head completely and just completely ran with everything he could and kicked down Udogie for no reason, basically just to end the counterattack for Spurs. And rightly so, the ref gave him the red card. VAR didn't even overturn it because it was a pretty clear red card. He didn't go for the ball at all and just basically kicked down Udogie. So pretty clear red there for McGinn, who went from McGinn to McGon, as I've written in the notes. With a red card, completely lost his head, and deservedly he was out. And that was basically the end of the road for Aston Villa, and Spurs could take over. Really offensive and attacking-minded Spurs, even if they are leading, they are trying to push for the third and fourth goal, and that's what happened in this game as well. Son had a really nice assist from Brendan Johnson, and then he took matters into his own hands. Got a pass from Kulusevski, which he scored. And then he also set up Timo Werner for the final and fourth goal for Spurs. Really nice finish from Timo Werner as well, which is kind of not that common, I feel like. Don't really expect Werner to score those chances, but really nice finish from Werner for once. And another assist from Son, who managed to get 2 assists and 1 goal and a major 17-point haul. Amazing for anyone that has him. Most people should have him at this point, but if you didn't, you can feel really hard done by, because it was really left late for Spurs to get all those goals. And I think it was down to McGinn being sent off as well. But when it comes to Aston Villa, not really too much going for them going forward either, especially, but defensively, they've been even worse. They've been struggling so bad now without Kamara, who's out for the season with an injury, the defensive midfielder that they have. Centre-backs, Konsa made a huge mistake for the first goal, I think, as well, or one of the goals. Really poor from Konsa, who's usually pretty solid in general. But they're lacking a lot of players from injuries and stuff, especially defensively. And now with McGinn out as well with a red card, that's not going to be boding well for Aston Villa, who play West Ham next game, which should be on paper a decent match, even though it's away from home. But maybe Aston Villa need to play away from home, because they have been conceding goals left and right at home lately, and that was the case in this game as well. They used to be impenetrable at home and win every game, but now they look a lot more susceptible at home in general. But they have looked good offensively, at least recently. But this game, not so much. Watkins was in a couple dangerous positions, but never really got any huge chances. Aston Villa in general, Matty Cash had a decent chance in the first half. I think that was the only reason why he's pretty high up on the non-penalty expected goal moment stat there. But Aston Villa just struggled in general. Bailey was subbed off pretty early. Douglas Luiz looked nowhere near scoring a goal either. Aston Villa maybe should have had a pen earlier in the game, but in general, well, when Bailey went down, I thought it could have been a pen, but I don't think it was anything major, but could have been a pen at least for Aston Villa. But Aston Villa didn't really have too much to go with in this game, and that's partly down to Spurs just being a good team and being really good under Ange Postecoglou. A fully fit Spurs as well, at least for the first half an hour, because Mickey van de Ven, or first 20 minutes at least, Mickey van de Ven had to be subbed off with an injury once again. So yeah, sad times for the centre-backs for Spurs, but at least they had Dragushin now to come in as the backup, rather than playing the likes of Davis and Emerson Royal as centre-backs. But Pedro Porro's back for this game, played at right back. he was in charge of corners still, I think, in this game, but he also took some short corners to Kulusevski. Some corners were taken by other players as well, so I'm not sure if he's all that nailed on set pieces. And the same could be said for Maddison as well. He's not really like the set piece master either for Spurs. So, but they still have decent goal threat and potential regardless of set pieces as well, both those guys. She also mentioned Doku, who once again was pretty offensively minded, but didn't really get any big chances either in this game. But yeah, plenty of Spurs assets. Maddison again scored. He's involved in a goal pretty much every game, it seems like. Son is the major asset who should be owned by everyone, and also should be captained by most people, I think, as well. I think he's going to be the standout captaincy choice, especially now that he scored 17 points and Watkins blanked and Tony blanked as well. It's going to be advantage Son when it comes to captaincy, and I think he's going to be the main captaincy guy. Playing away from home again, where he usually gets his double-digit hauls, just like he did this time. So Son, really good. Maddison scored as well. Johnson scored as well. So all the Sons scored on Mother's Day, fittingly. But yeah, really nice game for Spurs in general, winning 4-0 away to Aston Villa. Not many people can say that in general under Unai Emery, that you've dominated Aston Villa that much. Maybe Aston Villa have a little bit of an eye for the Conference League. On Thursday, they do play this Thursday in the Conference League. I think they drew 1-1, so maybe it's a bit uneven for them, or drew 0-0 against Ajax. So maybe that's where most of their focus was. But without McGinn now in the league as well, they're going to struggle a little bit with especially the defensive mindset as well. So who knows what's going to happen with their defenders either. Pretty hard to pick out any starting defenders. It's probably like Pau Torres and Konsa maybe, but Konsa had a major mistake as well. They have Diogo Carlos, they have Longley, they have a lot of centre-back options. At left-back, really hard decision between Digne and Moreno. And then right-back, it could be Matty Cash starting right back, but it could also be Konsa starting at right back with some of those centre backs playing in the middle as well. So picking defenders from Aston Villa is probably not a good idea in general because they keep conceding a lot of goals. So I would probably stay clear of Aston Villa defenders when it comes to the free hits, or if you're free hitting in 29, or if you're bringing in someone from Aston Villa to field 9, 10, or 11 players in that game week without a free hit. I'm not sure I would go with too many Aston Villa players. As Bailey as well got subbed off pretty early. Diaby came on. He's a really good player. Maybe Diaby starts next game. Who knows? It's pretty hard to judge. Douglas Luiz is a pretty secure starter, but again, he's playing away from home next game, and he's usually scoring most of his points at home, and he didn't really look that good in this game either. So I think Watkins is probably going to be the only player I'm going to go with on a free hit in game 29. Because I wasn't too impressed by Aston Villa, even though they play against West Ham, who are another team that are struggling at the moment and are also preoccupied with playing on the Thursday in the Europa League. When it comes to game 29, Spurs definitely triple up. I think Son, Maddison, and then either Udogie or Pedro Porro, depending on what you prefer. Probably the way to go when it comes to Spurs. When it comes to Aston Villa, I think probably just Watkins, and I think that's probably what I'm going to end up with. Maybe if you get some sort of inkling of who's going to start at left back, maybe you can go with Digne or you can go with Moreno. Digne had a couple decent-ish chances. I think it was offside for a couple of them, so maybe that's why it is not counted too much when it comes to the expected goal moment stuff. But maybe Digne or Moreno if one of them is confirmed to start. But other than that, can't really see too many interesting players from Aston Villa. Emi Martinez in goal as well. Maybe if you think that they will keep a clean sheet against West Ham, but I don't think that's going to be the case because I think West Ham have just too many good offensive-minded players to not score against Aston Villa, who are really struggling defensively at the moment. So that's my quick wrap up on which players to consider from Aston Villa and Spurs this upcoming game week. Let's move on to the next few games, and we spoke about West Ham just now, and we can speak about them just now as well because they did play against Burnley, and this was it seemed like a major mess up in general for West Ham. They managed to secure a point in the end, but yeah, playing against Burnley, high hopes for West Ham at home to Burnley, after having a pretty good league position so far, 7th in the league I think still. But yeah, at home to Burnley, I expect them to win. Burnley have been in terrible form lately, and West Ham have turned it around a little bit lately with a couple of results before they lost to Freiburg in the Europa League. But it's rather than West Ham taking charge of this game, it was Burnley who actually had control of the game at the start, had more possession, and actually got the first goal as well from David Datro Fofana. A really, really, really great strike. If you haven't seen it already, you should definitely look up the goal because it was just a perfect strike from Fofana. He got the ball from Sander Berge, my fellow countryman from Norway. Got the ball past Paquetá after Paquetá sort of deflected the ball. Went into the path of Fofana, who took the ball, drove forward, and basically shot a rocket into the nets. Perfectly struck ball into the top corner. Couldn't really ask for more from a finish from a really good player, I think, in Fofana, who's shown a lot of promise on loan at Burnley. I think he has potential to be like the main guy for Chelsea up front. I think he has that type of potential. I've seen him. I'm from Norway, so I've seen him play in the Norwegian league. He used to play for Molde in the Norwegian league. And his first season in the league, he was touted to be like one of the most promising prospects ever. And he didn't really do much in the first season. But then the second season came around, and he was the best player in the league by far and looked absolutely amazing. So I think he has a lot of potential. And I think Chelsea actually have some decent options going forward at the number 9 position. They do have Nick Jackson currently, who's not the best, but he's still young and could improve. And then they have Fofana, and then they also have Lukaku. So they have a couple options to play with next season, Chelsea. But that's neither here nor there when it comes to FPL. So let's get back to the game at hand between West Ham and Burnley. So Fofana gave Burnley the lead, and West Ham sort of got more involved in the game after that, but still didn't create much when it comes to chances. Set up quite defensively, I guess, this game. Didn't really have much attacking firepower, and it sort of showed. Burnley also got another chance later on in the game where Josh Cullen, the former West Ham Academy project as well, was able to cross into the box, and Dinos Mavropanos, I should say, for West Ham was unlucky and sorta not that good when he tried to clear the ball and the ball went into his own net instead. So it was a pretty lackluster cross in general. It was going towards just a couple West Ham players, but Mavropanos sort of just panicked and hit the ball into his own net, and it ended up being 2-0 for Burnley, which was also the score at halftime. Then West Ham took charge in the second half, made a couple of changes at the half as well. Calvin Phillips and James Ward-Prowse, 2 players that Gareth Southgate had showed up to watch this game, were actually subbed off at the half because they were not the best in the first half. And Ward-Prowse, for what it's worth, has not been that good later on in the season. He's still like a pretty serviceable midfielder. His set pieces are still amazing, obviously. But yeah, hasn't really been the best. And Calvin Phillips has not really looked that good since he joined from Man City on loan. He also was subbed off, and Mikel Antonio came on up front, pushing Jared Bowen to the right, and then Kudus over to the left. And they also subbed on Edson Alvarez, who for some reason was not starting in this game, because he's also another important player for West Ham. And with that, West Ham got immediate gratification with a goal after 40 seconds, I think, from Lucas Paquetá. Won the ball from Burnley and easily slotted it home past James Trafford in the Burnley goal. 2-1 for West Ham. They got their first goal out of 2. Then they had another change when it comes to strikers. Danny Ings came on for Mavropanos, or for Aguerd, I should say, in defense, and West Ham played with 2 strikers and a lot of attacking players, and that paid dividends in the form of Ings just being really, really, really good as a substitute for West Ham in this game. Firstly, he got a chest pass from Antonio that he scored into the back of the net, but then VAR came along and showed that Antonio was a couple centimeters offside, a couple inches, I should say, offside for those 2 guys from the UK or the US. But it was a really nice goal as well. Nice cross from, I think it was Paquetá to Antonio, who chested it down perfectly. A chested through ball to Danny Ings, who basically reached the ball first and got it over the Burnley goalkeeper Trafford into the nets, but then it was called off for VAR. But then, just a couple of minutes later, this was right at the end of the game, right at the point of 90 minutes, when it was announced 8 minutes of injury time. Danny Ings got another chance. A cross from Kudus was deflected. That's why Kudus didn't get the assist in FPL. Basically, a cross from Kudus that was deflected, got into the path of Danny Ings, took it down, and then in basically one quick motion, turned around and shot it on the volley and scored a really nice goal as well, Danny Ings. So really like a throwback from the Danny Ings of old, back to his Burnley days, back to his Southampton days when he was a really good player. He looked like a really good player in this game in general. He also almost scored again after that in injury time. Another really nicely struck shot, but it hit the bar and went out instead. So Danny Ings looked really good, and he might actually have a role to play both in the Europa League game on Thursday and potentially also in the blank game week. So maybe he's like a rogue shout to be your striker in that game. Could be, because he looked really good, and he might start the next game because he looked that good for West Ham. Jared Bowen didn't really do too much. He could have had a goal as well, though, Bowen, to be fair, but it would have been a really lucky goal because basically the ball was cleared into his chest and the ball went towards the goal, could have gone in, but then it hit the back of Lucas Paquetá instead, rather than going in. And this was right after the first goal from West Ham, and Bowen could have scored the equalizer, but it wasn't meant to be for Bowen, who didn't really have the best game. Kudus had a pretty good chance as well to score when he was on the left-hand side, but shooting with his right foot is not his strong suit. He's much better with his left, and he shot the ball over the goal as well. So again, two teams that play in Game Week 29, two teams that are interesting. I think Fofana, he looks like a nice differential shout if you think he's going to score against Brentford, and Brentford have been really bad defensively. They don't have Ben Mee, they don't have Pinnock, they might not even have Reguilon, so they are susceptible to concede some goals. So maybe Fofana is one that you want to go with. But apart from that, I think Sander Berge had a pretty good game. Also quite controversial at the end of injury time. Sander Berge goes up to header the ball, basically goes up with his arms like this, trying to header the ball. I think he tries to get a lot of strength into the header, but he sort of messes up the header and heads it into his arms instead. Maybe that should have been a penalty. I don't know. I'm a West Ham fan, so I'm a little bit biased. I think it could have been a penalty, but at the same time, it would have been a really cheap way for West Ham to get all 3 points in a game where they really, they should have, considering goals or considering chances and stuff, they should have had the win here. But at the end of the day, you should beat Burnley quite easily, even without the help of the referee. So it would have been a quite cheap way to get the 3 points if they had gotten that penalty as well. But Berge, for what it's worth as well, had a nice shooting chance, shot it over. Also had a pass right at the end of the injury time as well, where Burnley missed a final and third save from Areola, who let down most of his FPL owners, but he couldn't really have done anything with the Fofana goal and the Mavropanos own goal as well. It was not really his fault either. So Areola keeps playing well, but he plays for a pretty poor defense, so he's going to struggle to keep clean sheets. But when he does, he gets a lot of saves, potentially even penalty saves, and gets a lot of points. So I don't know what to do with Areola. Maybe I'll just start with him for the rest of the season now, because I do have him. I have him and Dubravka, and I might just start with Areola, because he gets points when you don't expect him to. And he doesn't get points when you do expect him to. So that's kind of an annoying thing when it comes to the goalkeepers, I think, this season. But yeah, he's a decent option. Maybe not for the Game Week 29, but maybe you're stuck with him if you're not on a free hit. If you are on a free hit, probably stay clear of West Ham defensive players, because I think West Ham will concede. Emerson is injured for a month now. He's a pretty important cog to the left-hand side of the defense, with Cresswell not being quite as good. And Edson Alvarez, obviously, he's going to start next game. He's going to make a major difference. So maybe he will help us and keep a clean sheet. But offensively, Kudus still looks pretty good. Ings might be an outside shot to be a Game Week 29 player if you want to go really rogue. And then Bowen, obviously, is a pretty good option as well. He's always amongst the goals. Scored a hat-trick just now recently. So he's another decent option. Yeah, Burnley, basically Fofana. And I think that's it for Burnley, because they don't really have that many interesting players at all. So yeah, 2-2 in this game. Probably should have been a West Ham win, but at the same time, should have easily beaten Burnley without any issues. But yeah, wasn't meant to be for David Moyes and West Ham. And it might be time for David Moyes to pack his bags at the end of the season, especially if he loses now on Thursday to Freiburg. That could be a pivotal game for David Moyes in his future West Ham career. But either way, that's not NFL, so we don't really have to care too much about that. But it does maybe affect what happens going into the Sunday game, I think it is, between West Ham and Aston Villa. So keep that in mind, whatever happens between or with both West Ham and Aston Villa on Thursday. So yeah, it is a Sunday game, because they both play on Thursday, so they play on Sunday as well. Brighton against Nottingham Forest, and I think this is probably the least interesting game in general this week. Yes, Nottingham Forest have a fixture game at 29, so you have to sort of take those guys into consideration. But at the same time, we couldn't really see what happens with Nottingham Forest, because they played a pretty weak team this game. I don't know why, but for some reason they had benched Elanga, who's been one of their best players this season. They benched who else? They benched Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's been really on fire lately as well. Benched Awani. Chris Wood got the chance to play up front. Not sure why, because Awani is a better striker in general. So yeah, this seems like a pretty winnable game after Brighton had just lost 4-0 to Roma in the Europa League. Seems like they were there for the taking, but neither team really could create many chances from this game. Nottingham Forest struggled. Origi had a pretty good chance in the first half, got a pass and had a pretty decent shot at goal, but shot it straight at the goalkeeper for Bruggen, who had a decent game for Brighton. When it comes to Brighton's chances, it was basically just from set pieces, and that's why Pascal Gross once again got most of the points for Brighton. He got the assist for the own goal from Andrew Omobamidele from Nottingham Forest. Pretty weak from both Omobamidele and Mats Hels, the goalkeeper for Forest. So as someone who potentially looked at Nottingham Forest players for Game 29, I'm not so sure I would go there. Maybe Elanga, because he's most likely going to play in Game 29. He's a pretty vital player for them, I think, and he was rested for this game. Awoniyi also should start the next game because Chris Wood didn't really do much in this game either. So yeah, Awoniyi and Alanga might be options. Nico Williams might be an option as well, offensively, as a fullback for Nottingham Forest. He's the one playing lately. He was a pretty popular player last season with a 4.0 and one of the few cheap defenders last season. But this season, not so much, but maybe on a free hit in game week 29. Matt Sells in goals as well, maybe, if you trust their defense in their match. I'm not so sure I do. They play against Luton, which is an interesting game. A lot of people have Luton players, especially Morris and Doughty, who I mentioned earlier. But I think you could go counterbalance that with Nottingham Forest. But at the same time, not sure if I want to go near that fixture at all, because I can't really expect much from either team, to be honest. But when it comes to this game against Brighton, Gross had the assist for the lone goal for Brighton, but it should have been a much closer game because Brighton should have been down to 10 men with Jakob Moder with an absolutely awful tackle on... who was it again? I just talked about him now and I forgot him again. Yeah, Jakob Moder. Yeah, Nico Williams, that's the one. Really poor challenge from Moder, came in with full speed and basically just kicked with studs as well towards the leg of Nico Williams. He did try to go for the ball for what it's worth, but it's a pretty reckless challenge, which should have been a red card. It was only given as a yellow card, and then VAR didn't step in to give him a red either. So yeah, yet another controversial VAR decision as we move on to the final game of the whole game week. Not the whole game week, because we still have two more games. Chelsea against Newcastle on Monday, and then the double game week fixture between Bournemouth and Luton on Wednesday. But for the weekend's matches, the final game was the main game of the whole weekend between Liverpool and Man City. And this was, again, as you expect, between two of the best teams in the league. A really interesting game in general. I think Liverpool deserved to win. As Britain probably should have won there. Partly that's due to the thing that happened at the end of the game, which I'll talk about at the end of the video as well, because I think it's a pretty controversial thing in general, and I might have a little bit of a controversial opinion about the penalty situation there. But either way, let's start at the start of the game, or the first goal of the game, which was Man City's goal from John Stones. A really nice corner move from Man City, and I think Man City's best player this game was Kevin De Bruyne. I don't think many other Man City players stood out that much. Foden had a couple of decent chances, but he had a pretty poor game in general. Alvarez looked absolutely awful. Doku looked so much better when he came on and really was close to scoring with the shot that hit the post towards the end of the match. But yeah, I think the big players from Man City, apart from De Bruyne, sort of went missing, including Erling Haaland, who didn't really get much at all in this game. He had like a one-on-one duel against Van Dijk, and Van Dijk did pretty well to basically force Haaland into a pretty weak finish as well. But yeah, Van Dijk, for what it's worth, should be, I think I've said for what it's worth like 4 times this video, but either way, he should be, in terms of just like the best player in this game, he's the standout player for Liverpool because he was absolutely amazing. Saved Liverpool several times, including a cross towards Haaland where he like basically headed it out. But yeah, Van Dijk was absolutely fantastic and was a main reason why Liverpool were so good defensively in this game, and why Liverpool sort of had the chances to go forward as well because they were so secure defensively with Van Dijk defensively. He was the standout player in terms of Premier League. When it comes to FPL though, Luis Diaz had several mega chances. Really should have scored, especially after Salah came on. Salah could have also been a standout player. He came on with about 40 minutes left and instantly played a perfect pass to Luis Diaz, who was through on goal and could have scored. Salah also had a pretty nice chance to score as well with 2 shots, one with his left, one with his right, that just went wide. Salah came on and just made an instant impact that showed why he's still, I think, the best FPL player in the game, even better than Haaland, because, yeah, so far he's been the best and highest scoring player this season when it comes to points per match. And now that he's back, about to be fully fit at least, I think he's a pretty much essential player to bring in for Game Week 30, and I'm looking to do that myself. And I might sell Foden to get him, because Foden has been really good lately, amazing lately to be honest, and could have scored in this game as well, had a pass towards the back post, but at this time Kelleher actually made the save for Liverpool, which he didn't do at the first goal, which I come back to now. I did mention De Bruyne being one of the best players, and one of the reasons for that was his assist for the first goal for City. Really cheeky corner, sort of similar to the Trent Alexander-Arnold Origi thing. Several people have made that comparison already. Quick corner from De Bruyne, and it was clearly like a corner move that Man City had worked on, because Pep Guardiola, I think, pointed to like the set piece coach after the goal happened. So basically Nathan Ake stood in the way of McAllister from Liverpool, And he sort of like barged McAllister off the front post and gave an open space for Stones, where Kevin De Bruyne's ball was just perfectly hit inside the line as well, straight to Stones, who managed to peel the ball into the goal at the near posts ahead of Kelleher, who could have saved that goal, but he was just a bit too slow to go out and save it. And yeah, Man City basically got a goal from Liverpool just being sloppy and not really watching what's going to happen, and Man City with a really clever corner move, and that gave Man City the lead. But I think that was like one of the few things that was good for Man City this game, because I don't think they looked that impressive at all. I think Liverpool were the much better team, especially in the second half, took over the game, tried to secure a goal or two after they went down 1-0. And they did manage to score, Liverpool. And it was a pretty hard-fought point in general for Liverpool this game. But they could have had more, as we'll get to when it comes to that final goal in the game. But yeah, Salah looked amazing. Obviously didn't get any FPL points. Darwin also should mention that he had an assist taken off in the first half. Really nice attack from Liverpool, but Darwin was just offside, so he didn't manage to score at all in that, or didn't manage to score when he had that chance for Liverpool. But yeah, Liverpool in general just looked like the much better team in general. And they could have easily scored with their second penalty of the game towards the end of the half, or towards the end of the game, when McAllister and Doku collided. But the first goal for Liverpool was also a penalty. McAllister, who took the pen, pretty nice penalty, but at the same time, Ederson was right after it. This came after a really poor back pass from Nathan Ake towards Ederson. Ederson comes out full speed, tries to clear the ball, but hits Darwin Núñez instead, who got fouled for the penalty. Clear yellow card, but nothing more, because it's not double jeopardy. He tried to go for the ball, Ederson, and he didn't really do excessive enough force where it warrants a red card, I think. It's not the level of the McGinn red card, which was a clear red, where he didn't even try to go for the ball and just basically just kicked down Udogie. This was more trying to go for the ball, and he was just slightly too late, and Darwin got the ball first. Clear pen, clear yellow card. And also a really nice penalty goal for McAllister, who finally got to take a penalty in the Premier League after Salah had missed twice and Darwin had missed once this season in the Premier League. McAllister got to step up and take it, and he scored. Really nice penalty, even though Ederson was after it. It still managed to go in. And that secured 1-1 for Liverpool, who just kept at it. Got several big chances in this game, especially Luis Diaz after that really nice Salah pass. Again, Salah, so underrated as a passer, so underrated as a player in general, and made an instant impact for Liverpool. I think he's going to be terrific going forward in FPL. But at the end of the game, we had the major decision that went against Liverpool, I guess you could say. Or you could say, because they didn't get the penalty. For me, I was a bit unsure about this. I've seen a lot of people online who think it's a clear penalty, clear as day, assault basically from Doku. Putting the bottom of his foot into the chest of McAllister. But for me, I think Doku is just trying to hit the ball. He's standing pretty still. He's not even moving that much, trying to clear the ball out. The ball sort of was bouncing awkwardly for him. That's why he sort of took a long time to clear the ball out in general. So yeah, he tries to hit the ball, and maybe McAllister actually hits the ball first. I think, looking at the pictures again, close by, maybe McAllister touches the ball first, or most likely he touches the ball first with his chest. But McAllister is coming in full speed ahead. Doku's standing almost still, and that's why I think it's not really penalty worthy, in my mind at least. I know a lot of people think it's a stonewall pen, but I think Doku is sort of just standing there trying to clear the ball. He's not really doing like a crazy move either. He's just trying to hit the ball with his foot. And McAllister is the one actually coming in with full speed and getting into the situation. And of course, the situation ends up with McAllister getting the boot into the side or into his ribs, which obviously hurts. But I think it's just down to McAllister having full speed into that situation. So maybe the fact that McAllister got to the ball first means that it should be a penalty, because he sort of takes claim of the ball when he touches the ball first. But at the same time, I don't think it was like a reckless thing from Doku at all. I don't really see that yellow card for reckless play, because he just does a normal move and then all of a sudden he hits McAllister, because McAllister comes not really out of nowhere, because it came from the front of Doku, but still he came kind of surprisingly quickly at Doku. So I don't know. When it was not given as a penalty first off, I'm not sure if I would turn it over as a clear and obvious error from VAR. But at the same time, I could be susceptible to change my mind on that. Maybe it should have been a penalty. I think if it was deemed a penalty at first shot as well, I don't think I would have overturned it with VAR. So, yeah, could say Arsenal, I should say. Arsenal were not hard done by because they were rooting for a draw in this game, I think. But Liverpool kind of hard done by, especially with the level of play that they had. They were the best team in this game at home at Anfield, but also potentially should have had a penalty towards the end of the match, which would have secured all 3 points for Liverpool. Also wondering if Salah or McAllister would have taken that penalty as well. Would have been really interesting for FPL purposes. But yeah, Liverpool probably should have the 3 points. City were kind of disappointing in general in this game. But ended up being 1-1. Not too much to talk about when it comes to FPL points. De Bruyne assists for those of you guys with him. Stones is pretty lowly owned. McAllister is pretty lowly owned. But Darwin also got an assist from getting the penalty. So Darwin, another pretty interesting game. Darwin also had a pretty huge chance to score. Cross from the side. And Darwin gets to the ball first. But it just doesn't... He just gets too little of the ball to poke it past Ortega, who's on goal at that point for Man City, because Ederson had to be subbed off after he basically kicked down Darwin for the penalty for Liverpool. He had to be subbed off because he was hurting so much in his foot, and Guardiola said after the game that it's not looking too good for Ederson. So maybe this opens up another goalkeeper spot for a really cheap price from one of the best teams in City, because Kelleher already played for Liverpool. He's been playing really well lately as well, and Alisson is out for a little while longer, it seems like. So if Ederson is out for an extended period now, maybe you can have Kelleher and Ederson as your goalkeepers going forward, and maybe that's the way forward for you guys. But I don't know. It's probably just going to be a short-term fix. Maybe Ortega will have a longer sort of like shelf life. Maybe he's like the main guy to get on a wild card in Game Week 30. It might happen if Ederson is out for a while, so we'll see about that. But yeah, when it comes to the penalty situation, though, I'm open to change my mind. If you thought it was a clear penalty, tell me why in the comments. I've seen a lot of people say it's a clear penalty because obviously the studs hits McAllister in sort of like the chest, stomach area. And maybe that's enough to give a penalty in general for all you guys. But I think if you're running full speed into someone, you're sort of expecting to get hit when you can see him trying to kick the ball. It was not like the clearance from Doku came out of nowhere. It was pretty clear that Doku was trying to clear the ball and McAllister comes in, sacrificing himself, I guess you could say. But yeah, please tell me in the comments why you think it's a penalty or not. And that would also be nice to see which of you guys have actually watched the whole video from start to finish, or at least seen the end of the episode. Maybe you just wanted to see my thoughts on Liverpool versus Man City. But yeah, write in the comments what you think about the penalty situation. I'm open to change my mind. I think it was a pretty like 50-50 call, to be honest. It could have gone either way, and I think when they made the decision not to give the penalty, I think VAR did the right thing in not intervening. But yeah, maybe I'm wrong. When it comes to my bias in this game, I think just the feeling in this game in general, watching it, I think I actually would have preferred Liverpool winning rather than City winning. I do prefer Arsenal to win the league. I think I'm just kind of bored of seeing Man City win the league all the time. I also think sort of Liverpool have gotten less credit than they deserve for the last few years, just because Man City have been the main guys who have won all the trophies, or all the Premier League titles at least. I think Liverpool, and especially Salah, are just undervalued in general. So yeah, for that reason, I'm sort of hoping for them rather than Man City. But in general, I'm hoping Arsenal win the league rather than both of them, because I'm still a big fan of Declan Rice as a West Ham fan myself. And I'm hoping he does well and potentially wins the league for Arsenal. But either way, let me know your thoughts about the penalty situation. Let me know your thoughts in general about the whole game week. Anything that I missed from any of the games. Maybe I didn't see any like minor details in some of the games that I didn't watch fully, because I'm not able to watch all games from start to finish, sadly. I wish I was able to do that, but there's only so much time I have in a weekend, so I couldn't do that either. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope you continue to stop by. Maybe you can subscribe as well, and then you get the videos in your feed whenever they post, hopefully. I usually post around 8 a.m. UK time throughout the week, usually between 3 and 5 videos. This week I'm going to have 5 videos in general, because I'm going to have a zombie squad update where I'm going to look at the best potential team you could have had from Game Week 1 until now in Game Week 28, and how well you would have done with the best potential team without any transfers, any chips, any changes, any captaincy changes, anything. Just the same team from start to finish. What could you have done this season? And also look at the team that I picked at the start of the season to be my zombie team and see how that has done as well. That's going to be the video tomorrow. Wednesday, you're going to have the weekly wildcard draft, where I'm basically going to wildcard in Game Week 29, which I don't think is a good idea in all honesty, but I'm also going to try my best to make the best possible wildcard team. It's going to be interesting how I value Game Week 29 versus the rest of the road after Game Week 29 as well, because it's a blank game week before we have several game weeks where we don't really want those blank game week players long term. So that's going to be pretty interesting. Thursday, as always, is going to be the FPL Skull podcast, and then Friday I'm going to have the team selection video for Game 29, where I'm basically going to have the free hit team, because I am free hitting in 29, so you're going to see my personal free hit team most likely, subject to change of course on Saturday if there are some team use and stuff. But yeah, those are the videos coming out this week. I hope you will be here to enjoy them all. I hope you do enjoy them, and my commentary on all things FPL. If you do, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and like the video if you can as well. It would really help. And comment down below anything, whether it's the penalty situation, any other game, any other things that I mentioned, or any other things you have against what I said, or if you have any arguments, counter arguments to what I've been saying this whole video. But either way, that's it for me. Thanks for watching as always. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.